Welcome to the Denim and Pearls podcast. Business casual conversation laced with pearls of wisdom. Casual, authentic, unscripted dialogue about life, work, and entrepreneurship with the perfect blend of laughter and seriousness. Pull up a chair, kick back, and lean in as we welcome your hosts, Michelle Ross and Brian Swanson.
Okay, things just got weird.
Mahna Mahna.
Mahna Mahna.
Beep, 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 beep.
Beep. What?
Mahna Mahna. Beep, 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 beep.
Anyhow, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it might be. My name is Brian Swanson,
I'm Michelle Ross.
and we do this backwards, it'll screw us all up.
We are Denim and Pearls. We're a business casual
With pearls of wisdom.
from the porch.
And today we are in a strange mood.
Mahna Mahna.
What the hell is that?
Well, we're talking about influences in our childhood to our adulthood. And one of the things that was one of my huge influencers was Sesame Street. But it wasn't all the serious talk they would give us, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You don't remember that?
No.
That was the pinball machine, and they would watch the ball go through the pinball machine.
I guess I didn't watch enough
1, 2, 3,
Sesame
4,
Street.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And they would show the number of the day and the letter for the day.
Well, I remember the number of the day and Count Dracula
Yeah, but-
or whatever
but
his name was.
They always started with do. Anyways.
Yeah.
Anyways, we called this episode Mahna Mahna because there are puppets on Sesame Street that would go Mahna Mahna, beep, 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 beep. Mahna Mahna, beep, 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 beep. And they were all very stoic. Mahna Mahna, beep, 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 beep. And then there's one on the side that just kind of gets tired of the monotony of the Mahna Mahna. And he goes, ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. And he's so happy, ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. And he's dancing, ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba. He's dancing.
So
And-
there's lots of lessons in there.
Yes, and they all kind of look at him like, conform. And so he goes right back into line. He goes, Mahna Mahna. Beep, 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 beep. Mahna Mahna.
Oh my!
It's like they pulled the flame out of him. He was so excited to be on doing his thing. And they
well,
pulled him
we
back.
talk about influences, but now that you put it that way, I don't know. Did that influence us to go with the crowd?
It influenced me that the one who wasn't with the crowd was happier.
Oh,
That was my influence.
to
That's what
strike out on your own?
Yeah, go
The
on.
crab in the bucket theory.
Yeah, I love that because the one who strayed was the one who was happy, but he looked at the crowd and went, "Okay, I'll go back." Mahna Mahna. Beep, 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 beep.
But then he conformed again.
He conformed, but you could tell he didn't want to. So he just, and so at the end of the end of that little segment, he goes back to them, and then at the end of the segment, he goes, "Mahna Mahna," and he gets bigger and brighter, and he runs off, and he kind of bounces off on the screen, and it's like, you know what? I was myself. I conformed for a little bit, but you know what? I like being me, and he went off and did his own thing.
Nice.
That's what I learned.
So is that an influence?
For me, yes.
Really?
For me,
I always wonder sometimes if we think about our influences as being actual influences at the time, or if it's just because we look back at them differently today.
I just know that he was having fun because he was off doing his own thing.
Cool. What else? Because one of the things that I don't know, I think it might be my age group, our
I'm
age
in
group,
your age group. Okay.
because things keep popping up recently of remember this, remember that. Do you remember? You're not a child of the '80s if you don't know this. Like cassette tapes.
I'm
and-
thinking Captain Kangaroo.
I wasn't much into Captain Kangaroo. Captain Kangaroo was cool, but my favorite, I think, if I have to think back to all of my favorite ones, was Bozo the Clown.
He terrified me.
Because you remember Bozo, but they always had the games, and they had the bucket games where you had to throw the ping pong ball. And I don't know if I would call that an influence.
See, I would think if you want to talk influences and our
But you could win
childhood,
prizes.
yeah, you like the gifts. See, with me is Mr. Rogers'
Neighborhood, yeah.
because he was such a kind man, and when people would have conflict, he would solve it. I was enthralled by that because no matter what was going on, he would say, well, remember this little boy and this little boy, they're both little boys, but they look different. But because they're different doesn't mean you need to be afraid, that kind of stuff. And what do you think I do as a coach? It's what I do. Captain, I mean, Mr. Rogers, I grew up to be a Mr. Rogers is really what I did.
Come coach with Michelle and she'll teach you the neighborhood.
Not that, yeah. But anyways, no, my thing is, those are the kind of things that influenced me. The families, like the Partridge Family, where people would sing together and they got along, and they would have conflict and they would talk. So those were kind of influences.
Oh, I
me.
love the Partridge Family and the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but those always attracted me.
Do you remember the Applebys? The Appletons?
I do not.
It was a farm, a really nice man, and he had a farm, and he had like 12 kids. Yeah.
I do not remember
the
this
Appletons. I used to love the Appletons.
You say that, I think Green Acres, but
it was like the Waltons, but sweeter, which is
how could you get sweeter than the Waltons?
Because I'm telling you, the Appletons, he was just such a nice guy. But
I'm gonna have to look this one up. I do not. If you guys know what it is, let us know, because I have not a clue.
Well, I was in our age group, Brian and I's age group. We were those latchkey kids where we basically came home by ourselves and just kind of took care of ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so I learned a lot of lessons by watching TV while I was doing my homework. So my influences were MASH and Appletons and Little House on the Prairie and things like that. I learned how to deal with other people through that.
I don't know. You got me on MASH, because I've been on a MASH kick lately.
The early morning fog I see.
Yeah, that's not a really appropriate song, but
it's really sad, actually.
it's a very sad suicidal song.
Yeah, it's a very sad song.
But I'm actually on this kick where Hulu has released all of the MASH episodes, and so there's like 260 of them. I think I'm down to like 180 right now.
Wow.
Well, they're 30 minutes. They're like 25 minutes long, so they go pretty quick.
I remember growing up watching MASH, and I loved the conflict of it and the things they did and the things they learned. But I remember one scared the heck out of me. I remember crying and crying and crying. It was the one that Hawkeye lost it. He was going crazy. Do you remember that?
That's the very last episode.
The chicken one?
The very last episode is the chicken one.
Yeah. That was horrifying.
It was interesting because I actually read up on that one the other day, because the storyline, you just basically told the storyline, but there's rumors that there was controversy, and that's why the show ended, was because of that episode.
It was so
hard. The truth of it is, it was actually a planned episode, and it was actually recorded like 4 episodes prior. Oh. It was actually recorded before they did the second to last 3 movies or shows.
Okay, on a happier note,
so
I like to go swimming with bow-legged women and swim between their legs. That was Colonel
Potter.
Mm-hmm. So things like that influenced me, because I saw different parts of life and different people and how they reacted to stressors in their lives. And I think I said it on a panel I was on, and they're like, how did you handle, with me, it was like my breast cancer. How did you handle your breast cancer so well? And I said, well, I did cry. I'm human. I cried. I did kind of panic a little bit. But what I realized was I've seen that situation before.
Really?
I watched other people go through cancer, and I watched them make their decisions, and I heard how they made their decisions. So when that cancer diagnosis came to me, I didn't freak out completely, because I went, what would so-and-so do? What would my mother-in-law do? And the people I knew who had cancer, and I watched how they handled it, and I went, okay, there are options. There are other things I can do. And so it calmed me down to see other people lived, or, other people handle this. And that's how I see, that's why I like sitcoms and things of those natures. Were they called sitcoms? MASH and those kind of things? What were they?
Some of them were sitcoms, yeah.
Because that's how I learned how to deal with stresses that came in my life. I would relate it to something I saw solved on a show.
Right.
And I would back it up and use it in my own life.
Well, maybe I took Love Boat to heart too much.
The Love Boat.
Because Love Boat to me was all about the romantic side of things, and how everything is always good and always has a wonderful finisher ending to it. And,
I like Fantasy Island.
Fantasy Island was another. My mom made me watch those shows because, of course, you only had one TV at the time, wasn't black and white, all right.
And
but
you were probably the channel turner.
I was the channel turner because I laid on the floor on my belly watching the TV like this. Okay, it's time to turn the channel. But Love Boat and Fantasy Island were back to back.
Yeah.
Fantasy Island was always my favorite. In fact, they even came out with the new one, the reboot of with her as the
and you made me watch
niece. It was great. They were supposed to come out with another one, but I don't know if they are another season. But Fantasy Island, Love Boat, I mean, they weren't my favorite shows because they were my mom's shows. But I think in reality, they might have influenced me a little bit because it gave me that positive aspect that not everything is bad, and everything that might appear bad today is not going to be tomorrow.
And see, I learned that from Fantasy Island. People would go there to solve their problems or go back and erase the past and all those kind of things. And it always ended up that it had to happen that way and that they could fix it in now. And that's a real big influence in my life of you don't have to look back to fix it. It's right there in front of you.
Well, I'm going to switch gears. What can we take from the Warner Brothers cartoons, the Roadrunner?
Don't drop anvils.
Don't drop anvils and don't stand under a rock.
And if you see a black hole, don't run through it because it's probably not there. Well, honestly, I learned a lot from Bugs Bunny because Bugs Bunny
was all in the same realm.
Yeah, but Bugs Bunny was smart, and so Bugs Bunny, rabbit season, duck season. Rabbit season, no, duck season. He didn't take the circumstances as they are. He would change the circumstances to fit his own narrative.
Well, today they tell us that those were bad influences on us because they were so violent.
I was not running around hitting people with anvils.
Or chasing after them like the Roadrunner.
No. And so...
Or Wile E. Coyote, I guess.
Wile E. Coyote. But I also remember Pepe Le Pew. I love you. And the poor cat's like, I am not a skunk. Yeah.
Yeah, he got removed from one of the last movies.
Yeah, he did.
Because
he's too sexist.
Wasn't woke enough.
Yeah, he wasn't woke enough. But my thing is there's so many ways that we are influenced by the subtle things. I mean, hold the pickles, hold the lettuce, special orders don't upset us. Don't you know that?
I don't know that one. What's that one
All
from?
we ask from you is that you have it your way. Have it your way.
Is that Burger King?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I memorized McDonald's 2 all-beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles on it, sesame seed bun.
2 whole beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun.
That's what I said.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
You missed that last 3.
I did not. We'll rewind later and find out.
Well, here's the thing.
We were influenced by commercials too, apparently.
Yes, because like hold the pickles, hold the lettuce. I realized that you didn't have to take something as it was. I could say, I don't want.
That's a deep adult thought. You couldn't have thought that when you were a kid.
I did because I didn't like raw onions.
You just like the idea that they could take them off.
Mm-hmm.
You could do that at McDonald's too. You know that, right?
No, I didn't.
All you had to do is a special order.
The only thing I just always got French fries at McDonald's. But the influences that happened in our lives could be very subtle, or they can be very profound. I mean, I remember, well, Mary Poppins was a huge influence on me, and she was a fictional witch character, but she was a big influence on me because
you called her a witch.
She is a witch.
Mary Poppins is a witch.
Why do you think she could do all the magical things she did?
I thought she was like No, she wasn't a witch.
She's a fairy.
She might have been a fairy godmother of sorts, but she also was the cleaning lady. She was a maid.
She wasn't the maid. She
Yes,
was the nanny.
Or the nanny. The nanny. Yeah, I will stand corrected there.
Yes.
She was the nanny that just happened to have magical...
Who happened to fly from the sky holding an umbrella, who talked to her umbrella. Things would come out of an empty bag at her whim. She would talk to her own reflection and it would sing back to her. She would have a word that she would say and the chalk painting would come to life and they would jump into it. She was a witch.
I never looked at her as a witch.
She's a
sorry.
witch. She's a witch. Burn her, burn her.
So the Flying Nun is a witch too?
No, the Flying Nun didn't have superpowers.
By the way, Flying Nun is before our time.
Yes, but Flying Nun was little. She was a tiny nun. Look it up. It was an awesome show. But she had the old habit with the big wings on her head.
Yeah.
And so she was tiny. And the wind would take her hat and she would fly holding her hat. She didn't have magical powers. She was just
She could
tiny.
fly.
She was tiny with her hat. She was not magical at
So
all.
she didn't have any powers. She
No.
just flew because of the dynamics of aerodynamics
Yes.
of her
Yes.
habit hat.
Yes. So Mary Poppins influenced me because she saw
And they wonder why we're so screwed up.
in every job that must be done, there is an element of fun. You find the fun and snap, the job's a game. That's everything I do. I do it at conferences. I do it at my speaker coaching thing. I mean, I do it because I find the fun in everything.
Yes, I would
so
agree.
that we can do it. So I learned the most important rule of life from Mary Poppins: find the fun and snap, the job's a game.
I guess I wasn't influenced that well.
You have to remember,
I never dove. I mean, I thought this conversation was going to be fun and interesting, which it is.
It is.
However, I didn't have such a serious those things didn't have such a serious impact on me.
But you have to remember,
I have to think about it
like
now.
I said, I was a latchkey kid. I have a great imagination, and I analyzed everything. I still do.
There was a
I
show.
analyzed everything.
There was a live action show. But it was like a cartoon. It ran on Saturdays, and I think the guy lived in a magical hat. Do you remember that?
I grew up in the Philippines. I probably hadn't gotten to the Philippines until I graduated from school.
He lived in a giant top hat.
Oh, I don't know that one.
And he wore a top hat and stuff. And it was like kind of the story of the old lady in the shoe with all the kids and everything else. And that was all part of the story. I don't remember what it was called. I have no idea. I always liked that show, but I just don't remember what it was called. It was interesting and weird.
Well, I'm just thinking.
It was very
supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. That was a good word for me because there were a lot of times in my life where I didn't know what to say, and I didn't know what to say about it or do about it. So I would just do supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and they do what? Oh, here's one that was a huge influence. You ready for this?
What? I don't know if I'm ready.
In order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Schoolhouse Rock,
I was going to say, I couldn't think of the name of it. I knew it.
That was huge. I learned everything
Schoolhouse
about
Rock was awesome.
Everything from that. And I remember
that look on my face was, I know the song. I know what it's about. I remember it, but I couldn't remember where it was from.
I am musically inclined. It's what I draw to.
But when I think Schoolhouse Rock, I always think the other song, I'm a Bill.
I'm a Bill. Just a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Yeah, I remember that. And the other one was 3 is a magic number. A man and a lady had a little baby.
Yeah, see, I don't go past Bill, so.
There was 3 in the family. It's a magic number. And my thing was, it was a magic number because of the way it works in math. But with me, it was a magic number. I went, wait a minute. So we had 3 magic, my oldest brother, my other older brother, and my older sister. And then me. I was fourth. And I went, so the magic was gone? And I remember being all upset about it when I'm watching the cartoon. And my brother said, you're 3 again. And I said, huh? He said, the man and the lady had another baby. So it's mom, dad, and our oldest brother, Bruce. They were the first 3 magic number. Then my brother, Troy, who told me you're a magic number 2. Then my sister, Yvette. And then me. I was the 3 again. So 2 3s were 2 magic numbers. So we were extra special because we had 2 3s in our family. And I'm like, oh, okay.
That reminds me of these things about the coincidences in the world about the politics or whatever. And if you take these numbers and these dates, and you add them all up, and it comes to the number 9, and 9 is common through all of these. I look at those sometimes and I just go, how long did it take you to figure this out?
That's a lot of looking.
I just seen one the other day. It made absolutely no sense.
It's far more observant than I can be. But
there's something in the magic of numbers, and there's something in the
numerology.
Yes,
because they say that it can do your whole life. It will, by taking the numbers of your name in the alphabet and adding them up and dividing and then splitting that number, and you add that, it's another number, and that's some magic number that sets you for the rest of your life. I'm like, Okay. My parents picked out Michelle.
It's too many letters. But if you divide by 3, you get what you
So influences of your
divide by
childhood
3 and
and what you
multiply
did.
by 27. You've
So-
got it.
So what influences did you have in your life, and what kind of influences are you allowing in your life as an adult?
Yeah, because we're in this particular show, we're talking outside of your parents or any of those personal influences you may have. We're talking about pop culture influences, if you will,
Yes.
or anything that's not, not pop culture.
Or Scooby-Dooby-Doo. And I remember thinking, that dog is smoking something, and so is Shaggy. I remember recognizing that as a kid doing, I know that. I know
Well, at the
that.
time, I didn't know it, but it actually has one of my favorite celebrities in it.
Who?
Casey Kasem
Oh, yeah, I knew that.
doing Shaggy.
Mhm.
I never knew that until I was much older, but I
Oh,
love Casey Kasem.
Think of Casey Kasem. He was a huge influence.
Oh, he
well-
was major on my part.
Well, and like with
Now
me,
that you mention it.
well, and with me, it was the voice.
What do you mean the voice?
His voice, the way he would announce things.
Oh, the DJ voice?
Yeah, have you not heard me speak in my DJ voice? That is a Casey Kasem influence, because he modulated his voice.
He did.
I
He did.
learned to modulate my voice watching Casey Kasem because I used to pretend to be him.
Yeah.
I would listen. We were at AFRTS. We were
AFARTS.
AFARTS. We were overseas, so we got radio through AFARTS, which is American Forces Radio and Television Service. And
Good job.
on Sunday morning, I grew up with it for 15 years of my life. I would listen to the Casey Kasem show, and he would do the America's top
American Top 40.
He did the top 40, and I would listen to him, and I remember repeating what he would say because he sounded so cool.
Well, since you were so involved, did you learn anything from the write-ins, from the, I want to hear this on the dedication songs?
Learn something from the dedication songs?
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff to do with the dedication
Yeah,
song.
no, I
dedication of whatever.
I was actually there only for him.
Okay. No, I heard a lot from the dedication stories. I like the little technical aspect in me of music where they would talk about who wrote the song and why it was influenced and why it's finally coming to market or when it, all that kind of stuff. I was all into.
Oh, I just like the music.
So I listen to the music and I still know stories off of that. Stupid trivia questions,
And
really.
see, and with me, with those kind of things, I would listen to Casey Kasem, hear the song I liked, and then I'd write it down, and then I'd go to MWR, Morale, Welfare, and Recreation, and they had reel-to-reels. For those millennials that don't know what a reel-to, they were big things of tape, and they had music on them, and you would bring it through. Well, anyways, we could get this reel-to-reel.
And they didn't require a pencil, so they were not a cassette tape.
No, they were huge, and you would hook it up, and you could put your cassette tape thing in it, and you could record songs. So they would send the reel of this was all of the American Top 40. So I would have to reel through where it was, and then I would hit, okay, the song's about to come on, and I hit play and record at the same time. So it would record, and then I would get the songs off of the reel to reel. So I would have my own cassette tape of the music I liked.
Nice.
Yeah. But
So,
I
do you remember Casey Kasem's closing quote, which is my favorite quote of all time?
go ahead, say it.
Do you know what it is?
Reach to the skies, reach to the stars.
Nope. Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Just-
And but the
you
way
know my other
the way he said it was so magical.
I know. You know what my other quote is?
What?
It's very simple. Simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. Henry David Thoreau.
Oh, my other big influence, huge, which probably what most people, if you got my quote book, Pearls of Wisdom,
Hey, I'm in that book.
you are.
I'm in that book.
You
I published.
I put in the quotes that influenced me, and a good 70% of it, I think, are Winnie the Pooh.
Really?
Winnie the Pooh was
Well, they've
so...
destroyed Winnie the Pooh from what I'm hearing right now.
Oh,
Oh yeah, the trademark on Winnie the Pooh just expired like a month ago or something,
Oh.
and they totally turned him into a vicious killer.
Oh, I saw the
Yeah,
movie.
it's very dark.
It's terrifying.
I haven't seen it yet. But
Yeah,
I've seen
no, I saw the
advertising.
previews for the advertising. I'm like, you can't do that to Winnie the Pooh and that crew. No, but he had a lot of
I was never a fan of Winnie.
Milne, Malign. I never knew how to say his name, but he had amazing quotes, and he always had, really, honestly, Christopher Robin or Winnie the Pooh would say these amazing quotes. about life and fiddlesticks, and just sometimes things go and sometimes they come and sometimes they fly, and you just gotta let them. That kind of thing. It's just beautiful quotes. Look up Winnie the Pooh quotes, inspirational Winnie the Pooh quotes, or get my book. There's a lot of them. I love Winnie the Pooh.
I was never a Winnie the Pooh fan. The other one that I was never a fan of, which many people are, was Jungle Book. I could never bring myself to get into Jungle Book. So even after, I watched the movie, even when they did the movie and stuff, it was okay. It was all right, but it's still just something about it. And honestly, I think there was another one too. And I think the reason why I didn't care for Winnie and I didn't care for Jungle Book and I didn't care for this other one, it was like, I think it was called like Beast or Numbers of the Beast or something. It wasn't Numbers of the Beast. That was Iron Maiden, but it was another one. And I think it was the artwork. I think it was the cover artwork that really turned me off to those.
Oh, and see, with me, it wasn't the art; it was the words. So, one of the quotes that I used to love, and I had it on my wall on a poster. Remember when we were younger? We used to have those posters we would get from the Scholastic magazines and stuff. I had a cat.
You were so weird as a kid. I would never put a Scholastic poster on my wall.
I still do. Anyways, there was a poster that I had of a cat. And it was hanging on a branch, and it said, "Hang in there."
Yeah.
I had that on my wall for years.
Yeah, I do remember that.
But the other one I had was a little plaque, and it says, I'm reading it. "If ever there's a tomorrow when we're not together, there's something you must always remember. You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. But the most important thing is, even if we're apart, I'll always be with you." I love that quote. And
it's touching, but it's also pretty disturbing.
No, because that's... well, you got to think. I lost my grandfather very early when I was like 6 years old, and he was very close to me. I was very close to him, and he told me, "If I ever go away, know I'm always with you." And that quote
that makes it special.
It always made it very unique to me, because I would get lonely and I'd be afraid, and I'm really not alone because I remember Grandpa. He's always with me. So these kind of things kept me going as a child, because one, I like words. And two, I put pretty much everything to music. So,
well, yeah, my life was music. So, like you said, American Top 40, different things like that. Huge influences. I don't know. I guess so. They shaped me, but I guess you could call that influence.
They're so embedded
because
in you,
American,
you don't even realize it.
Right? American Bandstand.
Oh, geez.
Soul Train. Those.
The Soul Train.
That was when I definitely got older and those kind of things. But when we started this conversation, when we come up with this topic, I was thinking of the influences of the cartoons and the influences of the ones that were, it used to be my kids love Barney. Okay. Now, Barney wasn't my style. I was a little old for Barney.
Or Teletubbies.
Or the Teletubbies, yeah. But I understood what they were, and who, I knew all of that kind of stuff. But I'm thinking that part of my childhood, that's what I thought we were going to go with this. But we've been all over the map on this.
You have to remember, I grew up in the Philippines, so what was old to you was new to me. So
you think so?
Yeah, because
we couldn't have been that far behind.
When we were 10 years behind in the Philippines. So in like Little House on the Prairie,
loved it.
It was over when we.
That's what made me weird as a kid, is I like things like that.
But we got it in the Philippines when I was a teenager. So Little House on the Prairie, when everyone else was watching it as little kids, I was watching it when I was 13 and 14.
Oh yeah,
So we were behind. So the things that are influencing me, that's what I'm saying. The things that influenced me longer, because we didn't get what you guys had in America. See?
Yeah, I loved Waltons. I loved what did you just say? Just lost it. You just said Little House on the Prairie. Was madly in love with Laura Ingalls Wilder.
Okay, well, I used to watch My Three Sons when I was 14.
Oh no, I watched that way back.
Exactly,
because those were in reruns.
So you have to think
those were reruns.
They were in reruns, and they would send the tapes,
group.
and they would send them to the Philippines, and then the base would play them on our station.
Oh, one of my favorite reruns?
What?
Leave It to Beaver.
Yep, that was
always loved Leave It to Beaver.
Okay, my number one of all influences of all influencers. You ready? There's two actually.
Probably something I've never heard of.
Yes, it will. Number one was the Carol Burnett show.
Loved it.
Freaking loved every moment of that show. Every moment. And Harvey Korman and Oh my gosh, they were just too funny. And then the other huge influence for me, and you're going to love this,
Laughing.
Star Trek.
Well, I know what it is. Wasn't it? Yeah, I would say it had some influences on me.
Star Trek?
Yeah.
Really? He is not my friend. Thank you. This is the last showing of Denim and Pearls. He is no longer my friend.
You're not understanding the statement. I didn't say I didn't like it. I was just trying to think of, was it an influence on me? Because I watched them all.
It's the future. It was the future. We are in the time that they were supposed to be in, and they were on spaceships. Okay. So I used to draw when in class, I used to draw things that I wanted in the future, like this automated it was a nanny. Yeah, it was a nanny. I made like a robot. It was Lost in Space. I made a robot that looked like
that is
Lost
not
in
Star
Space.
Trek.
I know. But with Star Trek, when we had Star Trek and we started dreaming about the phones that you just flip open and it talks and beam me up, Scotty, you know, there's no intelligent life forms here. You know, those kind of things. I remember drawing this contraption, okay? And I'm going to tell you how old I am. I drew this contraption, and this contraption would move around the room, and it mapped the room, and it would clean the floors and dust as it went. And what I had is I had these little blower antennas on it, and it would blow air off the sides, and it would take the dust off of the tables and stuff. And when it would dust, it would make the dust fall, and the other spinners would suck the dirt up, and that's what it was. It was a cone that took all the dirt in. Do you know what we have now that is it?
Well, I call it a bob, but that's beside the point. I know what it is. It's a Roomba.
It's a Roomba.
However, you know what you got me picturing?
I desert what?
What you really have me picturing is the maid on the Jetsons.
Yes.
What was she? What was her? I forget what her name was.
Rosie.
Rosie. Yes, you created Rosie.
But I made a short Rosie that ends up being a Roomba.
Yeah, but Roombas don't dust.
Mine was better. But
usually upgraded.
But that's the thing is Star Trek. Okay, Star Trek helped me dream of what could be, and that there would be a place and a time where we all kind of got along. And I remember when, and this is really I'm a little brown girl, and growing up, all my toys were white. And I remember thinking, when I grow up, am I going to be white? Yes, I was that naive. And I remember when I saw Uhura on Star Trek, and I thought,
it's Uhura, by the way.
I can't say her name.
Uhura.
I can't say it.
Uhura.
Uhura.
Oh, there you go. Uhura.
Uhura. I never could say
it. Wasn't Uhura.
Uhura. That's how I called her all my life. But anyways, my thing is I saw a woman with my skin color on a spaceship. And I remember thinking, this is the coolest thing ever. And I was little, and I remember thinking that was the coolest thing ever. So Star Trek influenced me, one, to know that in the future I was still around, and two, you could have a pill that would feed you. It would just be the entire meal. And
replicator.
A replicator.
I would love to have a replicator.
And basically, our freaking microwaves are replicators. But
you know, one thing I have to laugh though.
Right.
If you have you watched that? What's that other show that's kind of like Star Trek now? New Horizons. It was something else before. Anyhow, Anyhow, you'll know the show I'm talking about. But it's like Star Trek. And
Voyager.
No. It's I don't know. They had a name for it, and then they changed it to New Horizons, but I can't think of what the first name was. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, they have the replicators. It always makes me wonder. They go in and they get a bacon and lettuce and tomato sandwich. How do they know to push that button? How do they know to say, give me a BLT when BLTs at that time frame don't exist, but it's something from the past?
Because
like from today.
Because they had the simulator rooms, and they would go back in the past.
Oh, okay. There's a logical decision on that.
Well,
anyway.
We have rambled enough for this episode. Just think about what influenced you in your life, and it could be the simplest things like Schoolhouse Rock or Star Trek. What influenced you, and how do you think nowadays in your older age by something that actually affected you when you were a little kid?
And does it still influence you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of my big things is Prince. You know, when I was a teenager and stuff, Prince 1999 album got me through all kinds of crazy stuff in my lifetime. We're in trouble. Anyway, it got me through all the crazy kinds of stuff like that, but it still influences me today because of who he is and what he did.
Yeah, so amazing.
Anyway,
find your influences. So be the best version of you, be unapologetic. And remember, what goes on the porch stays on the porch. So go talk. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.